Love is supposed to be safe. It's supposed to be warm, trusting, and kind. But for Sarah Johnson, love had turned into the very thing she feared most. When she first met Mark, it felt like fate. He was charming, confident, and everything she thought a man should be. He brought her flowers on their third date, remembered her favorite book, and told her that no one would ever love her like he did. And for a while, she believed him. But sometimes, love doesn't die suddenly. It rots slowly from the inside until all that's left is fear. After she left the house that night in episode 1, the shelter became her new reality. A quiet building on the edge of town, white walls, shared kitchens, the hum of whispered stories from women who had lived through the same kind of pain. Sarah was safe, but she didn't feel free. Every sound outside the window made her flinch. Every unknown number on her phone sent a chill through her body. She had escaped Mark, but she hadn't escaped what he'd done to her. The counselors at the shelter told her this was normal, that trauma takes time to unwind. They said fear becomes a habit when you've lived in it for years. Sarah tried to smile for the children, pretending things were fine. But Lucas, her son, had started to wake up screaming at night. And little Emma, only 6, asked almost every day, "Mommy, is Daddy angry at us?" Sarah would hold her close and whisper, "No, sweetheart, we're safe now," but deep down, she wasn't sure she believed it. 2 weeks later, she got her first text message from Mark. "You can't hide from me forever." No greeting, no explanation, just that one sentence. Her hands shook as she stared at the screen. She deleted it immediately, but the words stayed burned into her mind. That night, she couldn't sleep. She sat by the window of her small shelter room, watching the streetlights flicker, wondering if he was out there somewhere. Fear had found a way back in. The next morning, the shelter director, Maggie, helped her file a restraining order. It wasn't simple, it never is. The process was slow, full of questions that made her relive everything. What happened that night? How long has the abuse been going on? Each answer felt like reopening a wound. But Maggie reminded her, "Every time you speak the truth, you take a little bit of your power back." Sarah nodded, even as her voice trembled. While the legal papers moved through the system, Sarah started a new job at a local diner. It wasn't glamorous long shifts, sore feet, minimum wage, but it gave her purpose. She liked the sound of customers chatting, the smell of coffee, the feeling of being useful again. For the first time in a long time, she felt almost normal. Until one afternoon, she looked out the diner window and saw a car she recognized. A dark gray Honda Civic, Mark's car. It was parked across the street, engine off, tinted windows. Sarah froze, plate in hand, her heart racing so fast she thought she might faint. When she blinked, the car was gone. She wasn't sure if she'd imagined it, but her body knew. Fear returned like an old friend, wrapping around her chest and whispering that she was never really safe. That night, she told Maggie. They checked the parking lot, changed her schedule, and added extra locks on the door. But the fear didn't go away. It lived inside her now, in her muscles, her heartbeat, her dreams. A few days later, she received another message. "You think you can take my kids from me? You'll regret this." Sarah sat in the shelter's communal kitchen, the phone glowing in her hand. Her breath came in short, panicked bursts. She showed Maggie the message. This time, the police were called. But even as she spoke to the officer, explaining what happened, she could see the skepticism in his eyes. He said he'd look into it. He said there's not much they can do until he violates the order. The system was built to protect her, but in that moment, she realized how fragile protection really is. That night, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about how easily her story could end the way so many others did, as another name in a newspaper headline. So she made a decision. She would no longer live her life reacting to fear. She would fight it. She started keeping a journal. Every threat, every sighting, every call, all written down. She began attending group therapy sessions, listening to other women's stories. One of them, a woman named Teresa, told her, "You can't let him live in your head. You escaped the house, now you have to escape the fear." Those words became a turning point. Sarah started running every morning before work. The rhythm of her feet on the pavement became a kind of therapy, each step reminding her she was still here, still moving forward. Her children began to laugh again. Lucas started drawing pictures, his mom, his sister, and a house with no dark clouds above it. Emma started humming songs in her sleep. The fear was still there, but it was quieter now, pushed to the corners of her mind by small moments of hope. One evening, as Sarah was closing up the diner, a customer handed her a small tip and said, "You've got a kind smile. Don't lose that." It was such a simple thing to say, but it made her realize how far she'd come. There was a time she couldn't even smile without fear. Now, she was being seen for who she was again, not as a victim, but as a person. Weeks passed. The court finally approved her restraining order. She moved into a small apartment near the kids' school, with help from a local women's foundation. It wasn't perfect, the furniture was secondhand, the wallpaper was peeling, but it was theirs. And for the first time in years, she slept through the night. She was rebuilding. But fear doesn't disappear completely. Sometimes it waits in the quiet, testing the strength of your peace. One cold evening, Sarah came home from work to find her front door slightly open. Her heart stopped. The lights were off. The kids were still at her neighbor's house, thank God. She stepped inside slowly. Nothing seemed missing, but then she noticed the kitchen counter. A single rose, lying there, fresh, red, the same kind Mark used to bring her in the early days. And beside it, a note. "You'll always be mine." Sarah's hands trembled as she backed away, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She called 911, her voice barely steady. By the time officers arrived, the house was empty. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no proof, just the rose. As the officers left, one of them said quietly, "We'll increase patrols around the area. Don't worry, we'll keep an eye out." But Sarah knew what that really meant. She was on her own again. She sat on the couch, staring at the rose until dawn. Her fear was real, but so was her resolve. She wasn't the same woman who once hid her bruises. This time, she would not be silent. The next morning, she packed up her kids, left the apartment, and went straight to the courthouse. She filed for full custody, filed a criminal complaint for harassment, and requested emergency protection. She was tired of running. If Mark wanted a war, she was ready for it, not out of revenge, but out of love for her children and for herself. Love had once been her weakness. Now, it was her reason to fight.